Yes, what up guys? Let's talk about porn, sex and masturbation on semen retention. I was thinking about this earlier today, and throughout my journey now, I think in terms of getting a handle of lust and tackling, or at least immersing yourself in the semen retention journey, masturbation and wanking should be the number one thing that you focus on and prioritize on stopping. The sex obstacle, you cross that bridge when you come to it. And the reason why I say that is because, well, I'm 2 years into my journey now, and I'm coming up to 4 months no masturbation, and 4 months since the last time I wank. And because I've been able to stop that, it's not reinforcing that addictive behavioural tendency. This is how deep rooted this habit is. So I was thinking of it like this: when you're like a young teenage boy and you first get introduced to porn, masturbation, all that carry on, right? That is literally your first addiction. So you're getting exposed to that heightened state of dopamine. So the chemicals that get released through porn and masturbation are like that one, the relevant to cocaine. They're like on par with cocaine, the spike of dopamine you actually get from that. So you can imagine the impact that's going to have to a young teenage boy's brain. And then obviously you get hooked on that habit because you're going back for the dopamine, you're going back for the high you get and the release you get afterwards. So you learn to train that habit into your system from a very early age. I think I was probably like 11, 12, maybe even a little bit younger when I got introduced to all this stuff. So, or at least heard about it. I remember got showed a video, like the first like pornographic movie I got seen. I think it was like, I can't remember what it was, but it was 2 lesbians. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And then it was 2 girls, 1 cup, if you remember that, which was obviously just fucking vile. But they're like the doorways that you enter to start this journey. And then as a young teenage boy, you're training your not only mind but body to race to the finish line. So you're training your body to climax as fast as possible. So it's like a hyper arousal. You fill the meter up, you orgasm, you release, and it's over. So when it comes to sexual encounters, this is where erectile dysfunction comes in. It's not nothing to do with, health and diet and maintaining a healthy lifestyle obviously helps, but it's also the fact that our body is mechanical. We've trained our body to act out sex in the way we masturbate. So when we have sex, we're looking to just race to the finish line, ejaculate, and it's over. And we don't actually know another way to actually make love and have sex. So that is healing in itself. You have to heal from that, and you have to, because that's trauma, because you're training your mind and body to act in an unnatural way and respond in an unnatural way. And especially when porn's involved, because that just intensifies and amplifies the experience tenfold. Like, porn is so destructive to a male's brain, or just a brain in general. Think about it, like, your brain doesn't know whether that experience is physical and real or whether it's just on a computer screen. You're training your mind to then get seduced off another man's success. You're training your body and mind to get aroused and get stimulated and orgasm over another man's success. Think about it. But it's so normal and so socially accepted in today's society. We don't know any different. We just accept that this is just the normal thing to do. Like, it's healthy for young teenage boys to masturbate. It's healthy, isn't it? Because that's what we get told at school. Sneaking them out. I was that bad for it. When I used to go to isolation in school, because I used to spend most of my days in isolation, we used to have like cubicles, like blocked off, and they were painted black. So you couldn't like, there were no reflections, so you couldn't communicate to the other pupils in isolation. I was that hooked on masturbation. I even had a wank in isolation. I picked the end cubicle where it's a brick wall where you can't see me. No, sorry, they painted them black so the teacher could still see what you're doing whilst you're in your cubicle. But the end one was the wall, right? So I used to go to the end one and I used to wank in the end cubicle and have paper on me, releasing the paper and put it in my bag. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because, like, this is the levels of the addiction early age, but you don't know as a teenage boy what you're doing. You think it's just normal. You're following your primal instincts, you're following your impulses. And it's not until you break this habit and you realise how enslaved you have been in this habit for a long time. And I actually believe this is the start of addiction as well. So I was battling addiction from, I probably fell into the habit or fell into the drugs and party scene at the age of 14. And I was hooked almost instantly. So the addiction actually started then. Obviously it was normalised through the party scene and going out, and because I was young and it was like the social circle, and that was also an identity I craft myself. I was able to craft for myself. But anyway, because I had found that became the new addiction. I got hooked almost instantly because I'd already hardwired my brain through masturbation to seek heightened states of dopamine and quick fixes and quick releases. So I've already trained my system to seek and pursue dopamine or pleasure in that way. So any addiction starts from a male standpoint with porn and masturbation. That's where it starts. That's where the doorway to addiction opens. Because if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be training your body and mind to seek pleasure and dopamine in that way. So when you've masturbated that long and that many times, just like anything, the addiction starts to wear down. It doesn't have as big of an effect. The dopamine spike isn't as high. It starts to wear off a little bit. So you crave for new experiences, new highs. You're always craving for the next thing. And this is the first domino to fall in a road full of a downward spiral of addiction. And it starts with masturbation and wanking and porn. Masturbation and porn. Because when I step back and I look at my life, I was right, that was the first domino to fall, and that was like a catalyst for 10, 11 years of just downward spiral of addiction, and like addiction in all categories. I mean, it was drugs especially for me, but like I was pursuing always for these quick fixes and quick releases, and I've had to retrain my body and mind and heal from this trauma I've caused myself from all these years, and I'm still healing now. I mean, the work isn't done. I mean, every day I'm still recalibrating and still healing from this damage that I have caused. And this is where you've got to give yourself patience for this as well, because if you think about how long you've been doing this habit and how much damage you've actually caused, it's not going to be something like you do semen retention for a month and then you're healed. It doesn't work like that. It's going to take a long time, and you need to accept that this journey and this process is lifelong. You can't do 10 years worth of damage and expect to undo it in 2 weeks, or even 2 months, or even 2 years. It takes a long time, and you've got to be open and willing to commit to that. But I can promise you now, the transformations you get, just going back to wanking, even being able to undo that habit. And I'm not saying like I am free from masturbation. I'm telling you that I've not done it in a long time, 4 months now, and I have no urge or pull to act out that behaviour at all. The thought actually repulses me right now. So you could say I've overcome it, because when I look at my habits with other things, drugs, food, so on and so forth, I didn't break or come free from the habit until the urge to act out the habit disappeared. I didn't become free until the impulse disappeared, because if the impulse is always there, it only takes one bad day or a little bit of chaos to strike and you're straight back and you're reinforcing that habit. Like you have a shit day at work, your boss is giving you loads of shit, your girlfriend's pissed off with you, your mum's giving you grief to take out the fucking bins, and you're just pissed off, so you just want a form of release. You just think, fuck this, I just need to like unpack, unwind and de-stress. So what do? You flick porn on, you have a little tug, and that's it. The stress has been released, and it has temporarily. This is the catch. Temporarily do feel a form of release, but it also gets followed with a depletion, dropping, and so your dopamine levels get spiked, but through the law of rhythm, when the pendulum swings one way, it has to swing the other. So if you get a high spike of dopamine, which you get a massive one through wanking and masturbation, porn and masturbation, what do you think happens? The pendulum has to swing, so you don't go back to baseline. You plummet and go the same way you've gone high, you'll go the same way you'll go low, if that makes sense. As above, so below, but it's the flow of rhythm. And the same applies to any heightened state that you reach. I'm trying to get that, look at that waterfall, beautiful. So even with drugs, if you get a super heightened state, what happens? You have a come down. And that's all it is, it's the law of rhythm. And the way to overcome that, and to not be constantly on this cycle of super highs and super lows, which once again I was stuck in for so many years. If I weren't in a heightened state, in a dopaminergic state, I was like, whoa, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I need to get my high, I need to get my fix. And if that wasn't porn, if that wasn't wanking, that was drugs. If that wasn't drugs, that was food. If that wasn't food, it was caffeine. It was always looking for that high, because the baseline, the neutralized state, it was like, whoa, this is weird, it's silent, it's quiet, what's going on? But mastery is neutralization. The state you want to reach to avoid the pendulum swinging and avoid the super lows is to stay neutralized, my friends. That's the key. That is the key to mastery. You overcome the law of rhythm by neutralizing your mind, staying in a state of equilibrium. Anything that knocks you out of that, you need to avoid. And this is where the healing comes in, and the grace and compassion comes in, because you have to give yourself time to retrain your mind and your circuitry, your dopamine circuitry, to be hardwired then for dopamine through pursuit rather than quick fixes and just getting a release and getting a spike. But it takes time to untrain yourself, untrain the habit and retrain the new habit and new circuitry. Because it's not only psychologically with masturbation, it's also physiologically as well. The habit is not only psychological, it's very much physiological as well. Said that twice because it's relevant. So focusing on purely cutting out masturbation should be the prime focus, I believe. Once you get cross sex and deal with sex and the obstacle of sticking to this practice with having sex still involved in your life, deal with that when you come to it. If anything, I'd advise cutting that out for a little bit until you overcome the habit of masturbation. Because for as long as you're masturbating, you're going to be pursuing sexual partners. You're going to be on the merry-go-round of pursuing sex with women. You're going to be stuck on that merry-go-round for as long as you're masturbating and wanking, because you're reinforcing that habit and that pursuit to chase that quick fix and that quick release. But as soon as you overcome that, the pursuit of women starts to fade as well. You no longer seek quick fixes in sexual relations with women. Your sexual discipline becomes way, way stronger. Your mental discipline becomes way, way stronger, because you've overcome this low-level habit that has been enslaving your body and mind since a young, vulnerable teenage boy. So yeah, I think I've covered the most there, and the main substance to this video is simply going to be, on your semen retention journey, put that at the forefront of your practice. Just trying to not act out the habit of masturbation, or at least put your awareness and attention on what this is doing, where you reinforce this habit. But what I will say is, one thing, this is golden, so don't forget this. If you do relapse and you do have a wank and you do release, do not beat yourself up. I know it's difficult, but what you are doing by giving yourself a hard time and beating yourself up, you're giving it power. And the same applies for anything. If you are angry and you react negatively, what that does, it creates an emotional charge and it gives that habit energy. If you can wank, masturbate, release, oh, fuck it, I fucked up, I relapsed, never mind, I forgive myself, we go again next time. If you can have that attitude, you'll be okay. You will be able to overcome that practice. Every time I reacted negatively, even to when I relapsed on the drugs, but we'll talk about masturbation for this point. Every time I beat myself up, I went into a cycle of rumination, a cycle of destructive behaviours, and then I just fell back into the habit again. because I was in a low state from beating myself up. So please, fellas, I know it's hard, but do not beat yourself up if you relapse. Please just forgive yourself, let it go, and then just have that patience and have that forgiveness and self-love to just accept it's all part of the process. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, move on and go again. If you can have that attitude, I promise you now you will overcome that habit. That is golden, don't forget it. Right, I'm going to cut it short on that little golden nugget. Peace, love, signing out on that earphones. Bless.